Welcome along. Thanks for joining us tonight. Quick introductions to set the scene. Who I am, who we are. So Millpond, we are a PMI authorized training partner. We've been operating or partnering with PMI for about, I'm going to say 10 years now in the training space, but we've been working with PMI and the business has been around for about 14, 15 years now. Here is a sample of clients. I'm currently doing a lot of work across Australia with BHP, whether it's in South Australia, whether it's in Perth or Brisbane, also a bit in Chile and Saskatoon up in Canada, around a global capability program for them. So we do a lot of PMI training, but we also do a lot of customized training as well. We do a lot of delivery. It's not too long ago that I was out on client site, did a lot of work across CAPM and Rip Curl across Australia and New Zealand, a big ERP. My background's in digital projects, a big ERP upgrade from AX 2012 to a product called Dynamics 365. It's a Microsoft platform for or ERP product. So I worked across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK for that piece of work. We've done some training across Western Power in Australia as well, but with Oricon. So just a bit of a setting of scenes of who we work with. We do operate across the Australasia region, I should say. So we have trainers in Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane, and across New Zealand. I'm a Kiwi. I'm based down here in Christchurch. And here are some of the partners we have across the chapters. So we've been a partner with the Tasmania chapter for a couple of years now, essentially since it began, what, 2.5 years ago, I think, Narissa? I think time's flown. So yeah, it's all about looking to grow the awareness, the engagement, and the value of what PMI can do and does do for those who work in and around projects. Quite passionate about mentoring, coaching. Millpond was actually founded on a mentoring relationship with my business partner, so we're quite passionate about that. Myself, so not only am I a director of the business, I am quite hands-on in the business, like I said before. Sorry, just got a message, just checking stuff from someone tonight. So yeah, very much operate in the delivery and the teaching space. So, we're very much, most of our trainers do that. There's only a handful of trainers, two, I should say, who are purely in the training space and don't actually roll their sleeves up in delivery. I volunteer. I am a volunteer a long time, 14 years with PMI New Zealand chapter. Held many roles from study groups through to young professionals, through to our branch chair, organising local events. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities for networking and growth and giving back to the community through volunteering with PMI. So if you have a bit of time on your hands, please do reach out to Narissa and the team at the Tasmania chapter. I'm sure they'd love some additional help to deliver some of the initiatives they're looking to do this year. Personally, I'm a massive DIY hobbyist. The picture above is me building my house at home. The bottom picture is me building a 3-bay garage / home / man cave, to be honest with you. The room where I'm calling you in from today is one of those bays. It took me about 1 year and 3 months to build the house and 6.5 years to build a shed, basically. And the reason why it took a lot longer, because of some distractions from the project itself, and that was starting a family. So yeah, 3 girls, wife, 3 girls. Picture's a couple of years old now. I really should update it. My oldest is now 13. I got a 10-year-old and a 8-year-old, nearly 9. So yeah, 3 little projects of my own at home. My details are there. We'll be sending you a copy of the slide pack out after the call tonight. So if you've got any questions at all, please just reach out. I'm more than happy to help. I get a bit of a kick out of helping people get their PMI certifications. If that's the goal you're looking to achieve, then I'll do what I can to try and help best prepare you for that. You can find me on WhatsApp too if you want to flick me a quick message, or LinkedIn message. It's up to you. So there's me. Simon, if I can come back to you, please. So I got a bit of a hint that you're an engineer. That's your background. What sort of engineering have you been doing?
So my background is civil structural engineering and client-side project management with that sort of a focus.
Yeah, okay. You're based in Hobart, are you, or whereabouts?
I'm on the northwest coast in Devonport.
Yep, nice one. And you've already told me what you're here for tonight. Anything else you want to share that's relevant to all things project management? What are your biggest challenges in projects right now? How much time do we have?
Time, cost, scope, and quality.
Oh yeah, the old iron triangle. Yep. Okay.
Pretty much standard, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Nice one. Trying you again, Tobias. Any chance on the mic?
No, it doesn't seem to be working, I think, Dan.
No, not happening tonight, but at least you can hear us okay, so that's great. Hey, look, if you're not too familiar with who PMI is and what they do, I'll just give you a bit of a broad brush here. Okay, so they started in 1969. A bunch of people came together, about 5 of them, and thought there must be a better way where we can connect, network, provide some thought leadership to improve the way we deliver massive infrastructure projects in America. That seemed to add value, and it grew from there. PMI was very American focused up until around about the 90s, I think mid 90s, when they decided to take that initiative global. And they took that initiative global through a chapter model, where effectively there are chapters all over the world. There are 7 chapters in Australia. There's 1 chapter in New Zealand. There's about 221 chapters covering countries and territories across the world right now, all run by, or primarily run by volunteers. So this is people like you and I who have a bit of a passion for what we do in projects, and if we can provide something in the way of value to give back to help share these sort of scars and these learnings and this research and these experiences with other people, then that's what they're all about effectively. They have a big movement in America, lots of employees beyond the volunteers, and they do lots of work with organizations, lots of research, of course, certifications, providing standards, frameworks, conferences, effectively looking at where PMI is at today, but probably more importantly, where it's going in the future. So it is the world's largest organization that supports our profession. For those of you who may be similar, or I guess closer to AIPM, the Australian Institute of Project Management, they're effectively the same, I guess, they have the same purpose, but they are very much focused on Australia, whereas PMI has the greater value because it is a bigger global organization. If you haven't heard of some of their popular guidance or standards or frameworks, the most popular one is the PMBOK guide. It's effectively an encyclopedia of what is good practice project management. Some of those things you're talking about in terms of scope, time, cost, quality, risks, resources, procurement, stakeholders, comms, that's all in there. And it gives you all the I guess, things we should be thinking about from a process point of view, but it also gives us a good number of things to think about from a people point of view. A good balance between traditional ways of delivering projects, in terms of waterfall approach, right through to the agile or iterative incremental ways of working. So it's quite a sort of a broad framework to give you an awareness of, generally speaking, what is global best practice. There's an agile practice guide. About 40% of all projects use some shape, form, nature of agile in its delivery. That's those increments, those iteratives, iterations we'll be talking about, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, XP. There's a whole bunch of different methodologies there. So PMI partnered with the Agile Alliance, who actually, as of I think late last year, have just acquired the Agile Alliance. And ultimately, there's an agile practice guide for people wanting to sort of sharpen their knowledge on delivering all things agile. PMI big on growing and supporting the business analysis industry. And now, if you're not really working in IT, BAs don't typically exist beyond IT at the moment, but it is growing. The BA's role fundamentally is to understand how the business operates today, what the challenges are with the way it's operating today, and work with the project team to ensure that the thing that's being built to address that fault or address that opportunity is being crafted in a way what's actually going to do justice to the business, is going to slot in well to the business in the way it's going to work in the future. So they're very much a link between the organization and the project to make sure that requirements are gathered, information is understood, very much help with the change management side of things, the adoption, the training, the onboarding of the solution as it's being built. There's standards around program management, there's standards around portfolio management, there's a whole competency development framework to help give project managers a structured approach to progressing through their career. And as of, I think, last month, so this is really fresh, they've offered a PMO practice guide. So those who work in or around PMOs or want to spruce up their knowledge on all things PMO best practice, they've got that guide available now. They do a lot of stuff which isn't on the slide, talking about AI. They've got their own AI toolset called PMI Infinity, and they are really pushing the value that IR has on us as practitioners in terms of freeing up our time, getting away from admin work to getting more into the value add initiatives. So yeah, and that links us through to this suite of certifications. Jumping straight into the middle, I'll let you explain the grid first. So across the horizontal, that first tier is what PMI called generalized certifications. That is a general mixture of all global best practice. There's the process, the people, the agile, the traditional. That's what I've been talking about before. What PMI suggests practitioners do, it's not a must, but what they suggest is, during your, I guess, your pathway to learning and growth and development in terms of your career as a project manager, it's better to get that broad brush certification first. And then beyond that, it's good to specialize. So that's what the next tier down here is, where you can specialize in that business analysis we'll be talking about, specialize in risk management, specialize in scheduling or SP, scheduling professional, or probably almost the newest certification in this slide here is PMI's construction professional. So this is where PMI have during COVID, during lockdown 2020, 2021, they work with some pretty big organizations like Petronas, BHP, the United States military, about 7 or 8 other organizations to understand or define what's going wrong in construction projects, to consolidate that into what we need to do to fix it, and then build a syllabus and a course to help improve that. So obviously PMP is giving people awareness of good general practice, but what the CP does gives people the awareness of how to do certain things around scope, around interface management, around contracts, around communication, around governance specific to the construction industry, which is quite nice. And I guess if you're in the agile space or the software space, generally speaking, is more popular. They use agile, so they've got some certifications down there. Entry level down here. So this PMI Ready certification is really designed for school students, giving them a bit of a taste of what good project management might look like. When you get into the professional level, sort of early career, I'm going to say typically early 20-year-olds, maybe even any 20-year-olds, generally speaking, they might go for a CAPM. And that typically is there to give people the opportunity to get a PMI, a global certification in project management, but they don't have enough experience in project management yet to get the gold standard certification being the PMP. So they want to prove to themselves, their employer, or maybe the next employer, that they know what good practice is. So a lot of people use the CAPM certification as the first entry level into PMI certification spectrum, if you like, and then build on the CAPM after 3 or 4 years of experience, and then go and get the PMP. That's the path I took. I did my CAPM in 2011 and my PMP in 2014, once I had a few more years experience. PMP is by far the most popular certification. There is 1.3, 1.4 million certification holders worldwide. CAPM, there's only about 60,000. So that shows you just how different they are. There's a program management certification, there's a portfolio management certification. Popularity of those is quite low. And generally the reason because is 2 reasons really. They have quite high eligibility criteria. But after 10, 15, maybe even 20 years of working in and around the project space, actually experience becomes more important or more favorable for the practitioner over certifications. So that's generally probably explains why there's a big push on PMP and not so much on the PGMP and PFMP. I'm going to explain a bit more detail around what I'm be talking about in terms of the PMP, the CAP, and the most popular certifications in a moment. So just give you a bit of a high level view for now. PMI have just launched this PMO Certified Practitioner certification. I'm not sure, Narissa, you might be looking at this if you haven't already looked at this at some point.
Yeah, I've got the PF. I'm going to go for the PFMP, I think.
Yeah, okay. What about it? PMO CP? Is that something you've been looking at?
I haven't actually looked at that as yet. I
Yeah.
was going to do the PFMP first, but I did see that pop up because I'm a big advocate of that, as you know, as a judge for the global one.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I'm so excited to see that come up.
Yeah. So the backstory there, guys, is PMI have been a big supporter of PMOs, project management officers, for a long time to basically ensure that project managers and projects themselves are wrapped around a good structured value add framework effectively. And that's the purpose of PMO, is to provide that structure, that cadence, that reporting for projects to work within. There's an organization called the PMO Global Alliance, and PMI, as part of their growth, acquired them a year and a half ago. So they absorbed their own PMO certification and reintroduced it as a PMI certification literally about a month ago, 2 months max. So that's quite new. I've had some feedback from some of my, I guess, network saying that it's good certification for those who live and breathe the PMO space. So that's good to hear. CP, like I was saying before, it's brand new. It's only been around since, well, I'm going to say published, I think 2023, if not late 2022 at the earliest. And it's started to get momentum. PMI are very pushing this. Construction make up a huge portion of projects, and probably even a greater portion of the spend on projects, because typically construction projects have higher budgets than, say, IT or retail or health projects. So yeah, PMI are very big on growing this. There's going to be, it hasn't been announced yet, but there's going to be a bit of a construction roadshow for Australia, sponsored by PMI, coming in the near future. So yeah, I mean, Simon, if that's of interest to you, I can flick you some details once that's been defined in terms of where that's going, how much it will be on person and how much it will be online. And yeah, because 40% of projects are agile, then PMI do some work in that sort of space at the moment as well. Any initial questions before I jump into some details around the benefits certifications and maybe a bit more detail around the most common certifications that PMI offer?
None from me. I'm good. But take a longer sip. You're welcome. You have a break.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Okay, just to sort of start at the top, the benefits of certifications as an individual, you learn what is considered, like I said before, global best practice. And it's not global best practice that was defined 10 years ago. This is best practice which is constantly redefined, literally every 2, 3, if not 4 years. Those standards, those frameworks I talked about, get updated. The exam content gets updated. Lots of thought leadership, lots of work from private, but also, say, academic organizations in terms of what project managers, program managers, portfolio managers, executives, and boards need out of the project environment today. So it gives you the ability to reflect on what you're doing today, understand what you're doing and the why you're doing it, and where it adds value. It makes you be aware, or introduces you to some concepts that you may not have been aware of, or the value of doing those sort of things, to give you the chance to apply them to your projects. But also, there might be some things that you didn't know aren't relevant to your industry, but that's cool. At least you're aware about, alternative ways of delivering projects now. So it's great in terms of the global recognition. It's great in terms of your career growth. There's a whole bunch of stats to share around career progression and the speed of that are supported by PMI certifications. I forget the exact number, but if you look at, on average, PMP certified practitioners versus non-PMP certified practitioners who operate in that project management or senior project management role, those who have PMP on average are 20% get paid 20% more than those who do not. That's not saying get your PMP and then go give it to your boss and say, "Carve a 20% pay rise, please." Doesn't quite work that way. We might like it to, but that's how the stats are portrayed. Great knowledge in terms of uptake. A great opportunity for networking. A lot of people choose to either do a course in-house with the organization, but actually a lot of people choose to do a public course because then they go on that learning journey with other people from other organizations, and throughout the courses, then you sort of start to share stories about how you work and how I work, and then how PMI says we should work, and try and work out, again, how we're all different. We're all trying to do the same thing, but we'll do it differently to get, hopefully, good results. And it's just great to get continuous learning. I'll explain a bit about PDUs and what they are, but they're just ways to keep your certification up to date and maintained throughout the course of its life. As an employer, as a manager, it means your team speak the same language. We constantly come up with teams of people who the manager jumps on board the course to get certified as well, not because they need the certification, just so they can speak the same language as the team. Do they call it a schedule, or do they call it a Gantt chart, or do they call it a project plan, or do they call it a program? what language should we use for certain things? When we talk about different contract types and the pros and cons of these sort of things, what language are we going to use? What is our approach to managing our stakeholders or engaging with our stakeholder community? Having some level of awareness or alignment on that can really make us hopefully a lot more efficient, give us standardized practices. Hopefully means that because of those things, we are doing our work faster, which means we're hopefully more competitive to be capable and competent to deliver whatever the current and the future needs of our strategic portfolio are. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary, and hopefully, that bottom point in there, reduce risks. Hopefully you're able to deliver more on time, to scope, and on budget. That's the goal. Just to give you a bit of a deep dive into, again, the most common certifications, I'll do CAPM and PMP. I do have some slides available to talk about ACP, the Agile Certification, and Construction Professional. So I'll go through these couple first, and then you can let me know whether you want me to share those other slides as well. So CAPM, like I said before, it's sort of designed as a bit of a stepping stone certification for people. It's for those who don't quite have 3 years of a project management experience. They can't go for the PMP yet, but they still want to learn and improve to themselves or others they know best practice. About 65,000 certification holders worldwide. It doesn't tend to accelerate very fast above that, because people let it lapse when they get their PMP. So it's kind of there are some people who choose to get CAPM because they want to be a project coordinator for life, which is great. They want to be a team leader for life. They don't need the PMP, but having a CAPM just keeps them in check with their team. It's based on those 4 domains: project management fundamentals, predictive ways of delivering projects in terms of your waterfall. It talks about your agile ways of working, so your Scrum, your Kanban, and also talks about that business analysis function because it's so fundamentally core to getting projects right. I think PMI a little bit ahead of themselves right now, having 27% of the CAPM exam on the BA role. I feel like over time, more and more organizations, more and more industries will be aware of what business analysis is and realize that actually project managers today, if we don't have a BA, a lot of PMs provide that function by default without even realizing it. So once you do the exam and pass the exam, which I'll explain how that works in a moment, PMI lend their certifications to you for 3 years. Okay, so you can put CAPM after your name for 3 years. And during that 3-year window, you need to better maintain that certification. So it's not like a university degree where it's yours for life. It's like, hey, look, you're worth CAPM for the next 3 years. If you want to renew that, then you get 15 PDUs over the next 3 years to effectively keep that certification alive. 1 PDU is 1 hour of effort. So 15 hours of learning, 15 hours of sharing, 15 hours of giving back to the community or your peers in your organization isn't that hard over a 3-year life cycle. So not a big ask there for the maintenance of CAPM. There's no need to resit exams. It's just keeping that certification alive, just keeping your toe in the industry that we're working. The exam itself for CAPM is 150 questions. Most of them are single answer multi-choice, A, B, C, or D. You might get a handful of which 2 of the following or which 3 of the following match the scenario, where you might get some matching lists, what you did at school, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, drag A to 2, B to 1, C to 3, and D to 4, or whatever it might be. Or maybe a comic strip or a video to watch and then interpret what's going on and select an answer. 3-hour exam, so 150 questions over 3 hours is about 72 seconds per question. You get 1 10-minute break. So effectively you have 75 questions of an exam, 10-minute break, 75 questions. There's no exact pass mark, so it's not as if you get 75 questions and above right, you go on and pass the exam. There's no percentage scoring. You do get a grading, and I'll share how that grading works in a few slides' time. But ultimately, it's an indication of how well you did in those 4 domains around fundamentals of project management, waterfall, agile, and business analysis. It gives you a grading of above target, at target, below target, or needs improvement. If you happen to be a member of PMI, it'll cost you $225 US. If you're a non-member, $300 US. If you're wondering what the cost of PMI membership is, to be a member of PMI Global, it'll cost you $139 US. So you pay $139 US to save $75 US. But probably biased in saying this, I feel like the value you get at a PMI, especially during the year of training and certification, easily outweighs what it costs you or your employer. Because all those standards and guides I shared with you earlier, they're all freely downloadable if you're a PMI member. There's no charge for those. To give you a bit of a taste of what a typical CAPM exam question might look like, what is the correct term for the component of the project management plan that describes how project requirements will be analyzed, documented, and managed? Is it A, the requirements management plan, B, the scope management plan, C, the project scope statement, or D, the scope baseline? Now, you might pick up here that PMI use quite formal language and maybe use quite formal terms to express what we do every single day without regard or without really proper consideration. So you start to get familiar with these concepts. It will start to desensitize you through these concepts through your studies if you choose to proceed. But any takers on what the answer might be here? A, B, C, or D? What do you think,
I don't
Simon?
know, requirements
I'm
management
letting you
plan.
have your break. If it's not a requirements management plan, then you've got your English all wrong.
No, it's correct. A, the requirements management plan is correct. So nice and simple, right? It does what it says on the tin. What PMI is saying effectively when they say this is think about how to best gather your requirements, think about who might have your requirements, think about how you're going to document the requirements, think of how you're going to validate those requirements, which we do every single day on our projects. We might not produce this thing called a requirements management plan to do that, but that's what PMI have labeled that act of us thinking about our requirements before actually going about delivering them. The nice thing about CAPM, it's the eligibility criteria is very low. Effectively, you go on any training course that spans 23 hours, so a 3-day training course in project management, that will make you eligible for the CAPM exam. So what PMI is saying, hey, look, give somebody a little bit of an education on what good project management is, that will make them eligible for the CAPM certification. It's an easier certification. It's not an easy certification, don't get me wrong, without any formal training or formal study in best practice project management. People will find it challenging, but with a bit of study, with a bit of reading or going to a course or whatever path you choose to take, it's achievable, easily achievable certification. PMP, on the other hand, so 1.26, that number's probably more like 1.35 these days, million certification holders worldwide. It's sort of considered the sort of gold standard certification or the most sought after certification. There are certain parts of India, China, there are certain organizations such as IBM who are reserving the senior project management title. IBM, for example, you cannot get your senior project management badge until you have a certification such as PMP. There might be one other one in the mix as well, but one thing they look for is a PMP certification. So it is, yeah, it's been around since I want to say 94. It's got a lot of growth and a lot of momentum behind it. So that's the reason why it's a challenge to achieve, and because of that, when people do achieve it, they're quite proud of it, and not everybody can get it effectively. The results of this, well, the questions for the PMP exam are based on what PMI call a job task analysis. And this is what I was saying before, where PMI interview a whole bunch of project managers across the globe, their managers, PMO managers, say, right, what is best practice project management today? What are you guys doing out there? What are your biggest challenges out there? They distill that information down from a research poll, if you like, compare it to the results from 3-4 years ago, and when there's a difference, they update the exam content outline, which means the exam questions get updated as well. So typically every 3 or 4 years, this is refreshed, and aligns with the certification. Sorry, the frameworks and the standards being refreshed as well. The biggest change we'll see in PMP, and actually all of PMI certifications, when they next get refreshed in the next year or two, will be the adoption of a whole bunch of AI components to project management. Just like CAPM, it is valid for 3 years as well. but in this case, you need 60 PDUs. So 60 hours of effort over 3 years, a bit more of a challenge, but still easily done. Again, a bit of a plug here for the PMI chapter in Tasmania. If you're keen, by volunteering, you get a lot of PDUs by volunteering your time to organize local events or initiatives or whatever it might be. The domains for the PMP exam are based on 3 areas of people, process, and business environment. And this is a pretty big change for the PMP exam as of now 4 years ago, 2021 it was. Before then, if you know anyone who got the PMP certification before August 2021, it was very process heavy. Like I was saying before, scope, time, cost, quality, resources, risks, procurements, communications, all that sort of jazz, very heavy on process. Narissa, question from you.
Yeah, hey Mike. So do we know when I did some review of the PM book 8th edition? Do we know when that's coming out?
Yes, it is coming out in early 2026, so about another year away.
All right. So we'll still be on the 7th edition for the
Correct.
exams.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you were part of an early review, were you? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was just wondering though, because I wasn't sure when it was coming out, and given that the AI is going to probably grow substantially in that
Yeah.
time frame, they're probably going to have to do a few iterations before that date.
Yep, that's the challenge, right? Because they put a lot of rigor into their standard development, and that takes time, right? But AI is just going so fast at the moment.
So fast, yeah, exactly.
So yeah, anyone before August 2021, very process-driven certification, where now PMI have realized that actually it's people who deliver projects. So we need to be very high on our EQ, not just our IQ, to be good leading project managers. So yeah, 42% people focus. This is around leadership, trust, relationships, conflict management, motivation, engagement, on-site versus remote workers, all these sorts of details, which are pretty important to the success rate of projects. And the 8% are our business environment in terms of this is our governance, this is our culture, this is the way we change, this is in terms of organizational change management. This could be around compliance needs, those sort of things which are equally important, but more of probably a hygiene factor or maybe a constraint rather than a core focus for a project manager or the project team. Half the questions are situated around traditional projects and the other half are around agile and hybrid to kind of reflect what the industry is using out there in the way of delivering projects. Exam format, slightly longer, 180 questions over 3 hours and 50 minutes. Okay, so just shy of 4 hours there. Again, similar structure, mostly single answer multi-choice, but a few other options there as well. About 77 seconds per question for this exam. You get 2 10-minute breaks. So you have 60 questions, 10-minute break, 60 questions, 10-minute break, 60 questions. So think of it as almost like 3 smaller modules of exams, if that makes more sense. Again, pass mark, bit of a mystery. You get the same grading, but in this case, you get above target, target, below target, or needs improvement for those 3 domains being people, process, and your business environment. Because there's a number of additional security controls and probably additional process around the administering and governance of the PMP certification, the costs go up as well. So $405 for a member, $655 that recently went up to $655 for non-members. So this is where it makes complete financial sense. Pay $139 for membership to then pay $405. So you're saving what, $250 by paying $130 for membership. This is where questions get a bit harder. So here's a sample PMP exam question. An agile innovation team is highly productive. That's good news. However, the head of operations informs the product owner the company is not getting sustainable return on investment from the team's work. How should the product owner address the problem? Should we define a minimum viable product with the team and prioritize relevant backlog items? Should we reduce the number of team members as necessary to guarantee a positive return on investment? Should we identify minimum business increments and prioritize relevant backlog items? Or should we work with a project manager to run a retrospective and perform project cancellation? So this is where it really sort of comes down to how much do you know Agile, how much do you understand some of this terminology here, can you relate to it, can you not? Hopefully you can pick out a couple of answers which we can rule out. They're clearly not right, okay? The problem is they were highly productive, but the operations manager doesn't feel like we're getting much return from our customers on the work we're doing. Now, if you do B, reduce the number of team members to guarantee a positive ROI, taking, I guess, capacity down or competency down, capability down to increase output doesn't quite work that way. You can't get more output for less people. So we can rule out B. D, I think it's a bit premature to cancel the project. Just because we're having a bit of a rough spot, we look for opportunity to do better, doesn't mean we can sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet. So that's the sort of style you apply to PMP. You try and rule things out, and then you look at, right, is it more A? Is it C? Depending on how well you know the difference between MVP versus MBI, that will dictate whether you get the right answer or not. In this case, the answer is C, minimum business increment, because what PMI is saying, in their view at least, what MVP is, the true nature of a minimum viable product is to give us reassurance, to give us confidence, to give us feedback that what we're doing is the right path in terms of this new concept, this new product, this new prototype. It's not around return financially, it's around confidence. It's almost a risk mitigation. Whereas what MBI is how can we package up enough working features and functions, release that to the market to encourage investment, to encourage money to come our way to provide returns on our effort. Because the question's about returns, that's why the answer is C. So yeah, bit of a level up, bit more scenario-based questions, a few more things to think about. Not the hardest exam in the world, but a good challenge. Eligibility for PMP, two paths. If you have, it says there a 4-year degree. If you've got a 3 years degree and it's called a bachelor's degree, that's okay as well. Ultimately, if you've got a degree, then what the PMI is asking for is 3 years or 36 months of project management experience. You don't have to be called a project manager. You could be called labeled a title being a project engineer. But if you're in a position where you've led a team, you've navigated scope, time, and cost to produce this unique core product or result, that's a project. That is project management. Okay. So PMI is just saying, have you been in that position to lead that team over a 3-year period? That 3-year experience must be within the last 8 years. PMI want recent experience within the last 8 years to be applicable for your application. On top of your degree, on top of those 3 years experience, you also need 35 hours of formal project management education. This is because there's just so much content to go through, you can't walk into a PMP exam on experience alone and expect to pass. It doesn't work that way. If you do not, you got CAPM, because you got CAPM, you've got some training in the past, that can apply as well. If you do not have a degree, then what they're saying, show us some evidence of you passing high school. I want 5 years experience on the tools, as a project manager, to offset the fact you don't have a degree. Now, your degree does not have to be, your degree does not have to be in project management. It could be anything. It could be in a degree in Japanese and arts, or it could be a degree in engineering. It could be a degree in photography. It doesn't really matter what the degree is. They're just wanting a degree for that sort of advanced study. Without a degree, 5 years of experience on the tools running projects instead of 3. Still 35 hours of education. The way the PMP application works is you go onto the PMI website. Let me show you. Oops. What do we complete there? PMI.org. Under certifications, you click on PMP or whatever certification you're going for. And then you click on this little button here when it pops up, apply now. And so what you need to do is start to fill in, right, I went to this university or this school from this date. Here's the qualification I got. I went on this course. This is my training on my 35 hours of training. And then for your experience, what they're looking for is give me your role, give me your project title, give me when did you start this project and when did you finish that project? Now, that PMI don't care whether you worked on the project 40 hours a week or whether you worked on the project 10 hours a week. If you start a project in January and you finish a project in December, that's 12 months of experience. So you keep inserting projects using the calendar until you have that 3 years or that 5 years of experience. If you've got a project from January to December and then another project from, so let's say July to June, that's not 24 months of experience, that's only 18 months because they don't count any sort of overlap in the experience. So when you write about that experience, when you put those project start dates and the finish dates, PMI says, right, give me a story. What did you do on that project? The number one mistake people make is they talk about what the project was and only what the project was. And we did this, and the project team did all this. PMI don't care so much about the project itself. They actually care more about what you did on the project. They want to verify that you have project management experience. So what I'm saying is, if you do want to apply for a PMP certification, provide some level of objective of the project, some level of outcome, but the most of it is effectively playing PMI buzzword bingo. Use as many phrases that reflect the typical role of a project manager. I led and directed the project team. I managed the project budget. I planned our project schedule. I reported to governance. I did this. I did that. You're effectively pumping yourself up to be, the hero of the project. It may not feel comfortable doing that, but PMI want to understand what you did. That's the sort of key focus area. We provide our clients a bit of a cheat list in terms of what to use, what the do's and don'ts. Use reference business case, project charters, what you did on project management plans, risk management, change requests, resources and team member engagement, stakeholder communication and plans, planning and mitigating project risk, reporting project performance, managing procurement of contractors, quality assurance, closure reports, lessons learned, all these sort of things. If you can write a story that conveys, yep, you are a project manager, happy days. So here's a quick example. I'll read it through just to give a bit of a taster. I was a project manager to redesign and improve the current drilling database for an increased data accuracy. That's what the project was all about. It was successful. I worked with key stakeholders to create a business case and a charter. I held initial meetings with senior management and project teams. I led the planning of the schedule and identified further key stakeholders. We created a budget, related project documents, including a revised scope. I led and directed the project team, PMI loved that phrase, through project activities and reported on progress. I oversaw quality validations, chaired meetings with working groups, and met with governance groups on a monthly basis. Managed risks, managed issues, managed changes, and we closed the project. You can read this and quite clearly understand this person was a project manager. There's a lot of stuff I can send you around the exam content outline, which outlines all the basis of theory or tasks or techniques which PMI design the exam questions around. We encourage everyone to read a copy of this before they sit the exam to give an indication that they're ready to sit the exam. But ultimately, just sort of the final message to share with you is the exam themselves are normally booked through a partner to PMI called Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE is a exam administration company. They just administer exams for companies like Microsoft, like PMI, like Google, like a number of different organizations. The way it works is you apply through PMI, submit your education, your experience, pay for your exam, and then they say, great, you pay for your exam, now book it through Pearson VUE. You get a link to book your exam. You can either do that at a Pearson VUE testing center. Now, last time I checked, about 6 months ago, there were no testing centers in Tasmania. Your nearest ones are up in Melbourne. But you can choose to do your exams online at home or in the office. You just got to provide the PC, download some software prior, check that it's all going to work in terms of a good network connection, good power connection, no background applications are running that shouldn't be running. You need to be able to close them and effectively set yourself up to a room, in a room where you're not going to be interrupted for 3 to 4 hours. They ask you to lift your camera up and check around the rooms, make sure there's nothing on the walls, make sure you have a clear desk, give you the best chance for uninterrupted time through exam. PMI want to make sure there's no chance of people to cheat through the exam process. But you sit your exam, hit submit, and then effectively you get a certificate that says you pass. Here's a grading. This is someone who sat the CAPM exam through us a couple of years ago. they got a really good score, above target, right in that sort of deep green color, an overall general summary across all the different knowledge areas. A day or two later, you get more of a detailed report, which looks like this. This is a PMP exam. Someone sat that last year and a half ago now. Overall pass, above target in those three domains: process, business environment, and people. And then you can sort of look through a bit of an exam scorecard, if you like, around all the tasks around managing conflict, around building teams, around leadership, around managing scope and time and cost and budget, whether you graded high, medium, or low for the questions on those themes. So you get a bit of indication, not a percentage result, but indication how good you did. So that's really a pretty quick summary of the crux of who PMI is, effectively all their certifications and some of their most popular ones. Simon, is there anything more you'd like me to cover? Anything you maybe want me to revisit around maybe the Agile certification or the construction certification?
Yeah, look, there's probably nothing in terms of the actual certifications. PMP would be what I'd be personally most interested in. It goes back to then what, I presume this is through Millpond, what those 35 hours look like. And particularly, it's probably getting a familiarity with not only the terminology, and I'm presuming that's all aligned to PMBOK, but also the agile and hybrid. I'm in a traditional construction space. What gets done as scrums when you're on a 3-year project, but it is very much a waterfall approach to predecessors and interlinks and hierarchies. So
Yeah, indeed.
so the 35 hours in your education for your eligibility, and then what those offerings are, whether it's through yourselves or Tasmanian chapter.
Yeah. So ultimately, we've got a course coming up in Hobart, actually, so kind of around the corner from you, in June. So it's a 5-day boot camp course that goes from Monday to Friday. So if you are interested, you can look at that. I'll send you some details after this call. But ultimately, how that works is you rock up on the Monday and you leave on the Friday, and during that time, we've taken you through effectively everything you need to know for the exam. We give you materials such as slide decks, we give you workbooks, we give you more than enough mock exam questions to desensitize you to the actual exam environment. We have time during the classes themselves to actually sit some mock exams. So it's a good break between, learning, discussing, to actually start to apply this in an exam setting. We then give you a whole bunch of links to some additional resources beyond that as well. So most people go from Monday to Friday, absorb all information. They've got to park work for the week. You cannot sort of do both. It's just too much information that we talk through to try and manage on the side your projects. So you got to sort of delegate your week's worth of work and disappear for a bit. And ultimately, you go through the week, and then most people sit the exam somewhere between 2 to 4 to 6 weeks after the course finishes. Look, there are some people who can attend the course, sit there, absorb the information, sit the exam, memories, solid memories, just can retain information really easy. I'm going to say that's probably 10% of people. Most people want to, I guess, do a bit of deep dive, read a book, or look at some videos that we share, do some reading of the slide materials, go through some of their notes. They sort of start probably about maybe 80% revision, 20% mock exams, and then a couple of weeks later, they flip the focus to 20% revision, 80% mock exams. So we've got about, maybe just think 80, 90, probably 170 mock exam questions that we've created ourselves. PMI, through our partnership with them, they've given us, I think the latest count is like 480 mock exam questions. Plus we have some, vetted third-party resources, which we give you as well. So you get probably over 700 mock exam questions to test out your exercise, your mind, if you like, on best practice PMI theory. And in the actual exam, you're only facing 180. So there's a good mountain of stuff to work through to build you up your confidence in that. Throughout the course, you'll have a trainer who's been there and got the certification. They're passionate about helping people get certified. Being a director of the business, and particularly this brand that's on my shirt is effectively an extension of me. You're more than welcome to, any student's more than welcome to give me a call, just talk about things. The night before the exam, hey Mike, I've got this challenge. What's going on here? How do I work out the answer to this question? What are your thoughts? And if I'm available, I'll give you my time, because if people let me know the day after, hey Mike, set my PMP exam this morning and I passed, yeah, it's a bit of a fist bump moment because that's what we're here to do. So yeah, that's a bit of a summary. We do online courses as well. If you're doing 5 days in a row just doesn't work for you, you can tune into either we do full day online courses, say 1 day a week over 5 weeks, or we do evening courses as well. So we typically span Australia and New Zealand. So for New Zealand, it'd be 7 p.m. to about 9:30 p.m. For you, it'd be more like 5 p.m. through to about 7:30 p.m. Usually on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night. So lots of options to sort of fit around whatever schedule works for you, really.
And do you do the in-persons across a 5-week span, or they are done as an intensive?
We do where we can get the numbers. Ultimately, if we've got trainers who have to fly down to Tasmania, for example, to fly them down for 1 day and come back, it just adds up the cost in terms of our operating costs. It's probably more likely we might do like a 2 and a 1, or maybe a 2 and a 3, 2 days 1 week and 3 days the other week. So ultimately, if we can get enough people, and this is effectively what we do with the chapter through promotion, is if we can build up the numbers to arrange an event on a timing that works for most people, then that's what we'll do.
Great, thanks, Mike. Simon, I did want to point out too, we've got some upcoming PMI local events in Hobart. So if you happen to be around the area, we've got some social events coming up and would love to see you there. Thanks for coming tonight, and please reach out if you've got any questions. We are hoping to obviously get the in-person training up and running. So hopefully if we've got the delegates to get one, it's great for in-person. I personally know my other half did the PMP one and he passed, and so I know that it works and it's very good training, the best. So I know, Mike, too, that Millpond get their delegates in the top 1% in exam results. So it's very, very good training. So
yeah, thank you. I'm not quite sure how we do it, but we do get some feedback from PMI Global asking us what we're doing, because people get some pretty good exam results. So that makes us feel good as well. So, yeah, thank you.
well deserved. Yeah.
So Simon, what I'll do is I'll flick you through a bit of a summary of the slide deck. Well, I'll flick you through the slide deck itself, a summary of where to next. Got any questions you can sing out, and yeah, we can go from there.
Much appreciated. And I think Nerida Ahmed from the socials up in Burnie last week was going to send me some stuff on the April conference as well in Hobart. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. So we're very excited about that one. We've got a lot of good guest speakers coming along. So
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you very much for all of that, Mark. Much appreciated.
Thanks for tuning in, Simon.
And
Have a good night.
Thank you also, Nerida, for putting it on.
thank you.